I went out in the garage and found him.
What do you mean you found him?
I found him dead.
Okay.
The truck was on him.
The hairs kind of raised up on my arm because I kind of knew that something wasn't right.
All I see is 2 feet, and the truck's off the jack. And I realized there's nothing I can do.
Law enforcement said it was an accident.
The constant thing that's going through our minds is being the voice for Levi.
The Levi Carlson case is a case that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
As a mom, I had no choice. My main goal was to keep us alive.
Maybe he's so mad he wants to do something right there. I'm just thinking, I hope this guy doesn't do anything stupid.
Probably the hardest part for me is when I had to reach down and I felt his leg, and it was cold.
911, what's location of your emergency?
Yes, the truck fell on my stepson.
Okay, are you with your son right now?
He's not alive.
Is he breathing?
No.
He is not breathing. Okay.
No.
Okay, we're going to start CPR, okay?
Carl, they want to start CPR. Do you know CPR? His chest is crushed.
His chest is crushed?
No. He's probably been under here for hours.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Levi died in November of 2008, and that day we had to go to a funeral. So we headed out to the car, and Carl just said, I'm going to go out and let Levi know that we're leaving.
My son come over in the morning. He was helping me because he liked working on trucks because he worked a little bit to have a little extra money. So we leave the house prior to noon to go to the funeral. It's almost an hour away.
We drove home, but when we rounded the bend of the farm, I noticed that Levi's truck was still in the same spot. He hadn't worked on it. And, the hairs kind of raised up on my arm because I kind of knew that something wasn't right about that.
I'll go out in the garage and see what he's doing. And all I see is 2 feet, and the truck's off the jacks and off the blocks. So I yelled to the wife, she calls 911. I get the jack back under, get it jacked up, pull up his shirt. And I realized there's nothing I can do.
When I got there, I was first law enforcement on scene. Carl said that when he had went in there, the truck had fallen on Levi, and that he had jacked the truck up, and that he pulled him out from underneath the truck. His chest was caved in. I could tell that he had been deceased for quite a while.
Every day I go in that garage, you got to walk over that spot on the floor. You have to ask yourself, what could you have done different? If I was there, it would maybe not happen, or I could have got it off him quick.
Now, Seneca County, being a agricultural community, accidents on these farms are not uncommon. Doctor signed off on the death certificate as accidental. It appeared to be an accident at that point. So at that point, the case never got turned over to investigations.
Levi, he was smart with computers, and he would help on the farm. Him and his older sister were really close. His little brother idolized him because he's the big brother. He'd get him out in the go-kart, take his little brother, put him between his legs, and they'd go ramming around.
Levi was the kind of kid that seemed like he got transplanted into Seneca County. He was kind of the punk rocker meets farm boy. He had the piercings, and he was a little bit out there, but all in all, he was a great kid. He would work for me during the day and then help his grandfather at night restoring an old tractor. It just doesn't seem like a thing a punk rock kid would do, but that was Levi.
At the funeral, 500 plus people came through that evening. Very heartwarming to know that Levi had touched so many lives. Levi loved his girls. It was so evident every time he was around them, and they loved him. When I met Carl, he was a single dad trying to raise 3 children on his own. We ended up getting married 9 months after we met, and my dream of, a happy family with a white picket fence was going to come true. And in 1995, my son Alexander was born. Fit right in with the family, his older siblings loved him and helped take care of him. So there, from the outside looking in, was my perfect little world. But it was shortly after we got married that I started noticing things with Carl, that he didn't always tell the truth about things. Catching him in lies, mainly about money. I realized early on that he did not know how to manage money. And this unfortunately continued throughout our whole marriage. Looking back, probably living in a little bit of denial myself, because I didn't want that perfect picture that I had in my head to not be true. I don't even think it had been 2 weeks yet after Levi died that Carl had come to me and had told me that Levi had signed up for this life insurance policy. Carl had also told me that Levi had made Carl beneficiary. Law enforcement said it was an accident. The life insurance company paid out right away. They don't do that if they suspect anything. There wasn't any red flags there. So months after Levi died, I started having a panic attack. These thoughts would come to my head that some things just really didn't add up. So then I started thinking about the death of his first wife, Christina. He told me that, back in 1992, when I met Carl, that he had lost his wife in a house fire. And, he said he didn't have anything to do with it. And then I would go on for a while. I kind of just thought I was being a little paranoid until a few months later when another panic attack would hit me. Maybe he did go out and push the truck on Levi. And, he has all this money now. So I hired a private investigator in the fall of 2010, and he ended up doing some research.
When we dug into Carl's history, I found the life insurance policy on Cindy. Cindy could be a potential next victim.
The private investigator contacted me and told me that he found out that I was worth $1.2 million dead to Carl. Now this put me in another sheer panic. The private investigator had also uncovered some paperwork from the fire in California and discovered that they had been investigating Carl, but because Carl had left and came back to New York immediately, that Calaveras County in California did not have the funds to go after him, so they let him go.
The phone rang, and it was Cindy, and I picked up the phone, and I could tell she was crying, and she just said, "Jackie, I've got to tell you something." And I said, "Well, what? What's the matter, Cindy?" And she said, "I think Carl killed Levi." I said, "But I don't understand why Carl would kill Levi. What would be the purpose?" I said, "There was no life insurance or anything." And she said, "Yes, there was." For a good 2 months, I tried to get Cindy to go to the police department. I just kept saying, "Cindy, Carl's going to do something to you." I was very, very scared for her.
It's February 27th, 2012, and I get a phone call from Jackie Heimel. This is 4 years after Levi's death, and she asks if we investigated a death involving Levi Carlson. So I told Jackie, yes, I see it here. I pulled up the report. It said it was handled by Road Patrol. It's down here as an accident. It was not investigated as anything suspicious.
I know my first words to him is, "I don't even know how to start this conversation, and you may think I'm crazy, but I've got to tell you something."
She said there was a large insurance policy involved in Levi's death. She said there was a suspicious death 20 years ago in California involving Carl's first wife, and she had been hearing information from Cindy that led her to believe that there could be more to this, and she thought we should look into it. You have to take every call seriously, but I didn't really have any feeling that there was going to really be something out of this.
The next part was really getting a hold of Cindy Cindy had moved out, but she was scared to death that she was next or their younger son, Alex, was next. So it was definitely a very stressful, rough time in her life.
At this stage, it's a cold case. We told Cindy straight out, I mean, we didn't lie to her. We told her, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. Because at this point, it's all circumstantial evidence.
Since the law enforcement was having a hard time getting enough evidence, and I just had the idea that I'm going to get my own recorder. I'm going to start recording my conversations with Carl to try to gather more evidence.
She goes, well, if I meet with him, can I record him? I told her what the law was in New York State. If it's a conversation and you're both there, as long as you know it's being recorded, it's legal.
I don't think law enforcement really wanted me to do what I was doing, but as a mom, I had no choice. I started talking to Carl and telling him that I was considering getting back together with him, but that I couldn't consider getting back together with him until he confessed about everything he had done. He picked the place, which was a busy restaurant. I tucked my voice recorder in my bra. My main goal was to keep Alex and I alive. But I can't get back with you without you telling me the complete truth. Even if you said yes or no to what I asked you, then I would know that you want to move forward. I said to Carl that I don't think that you're telling me the whole truth. And, I would threaten to get up and leave. But I can't get back with you without you telling me the complete truth.
Could you... So sorry. I don't know if I got...
Well, thank you for coming and playing. Carl said, yes, I did it for you because I saw the opportunity and I took it. And I remember just feeling like I was in shock. It was very hard for me, to deal with. How can a human kill their own child?
We get the call. He just told me he killed Levi. And I said, did you record it? She said, yeah, bring it in. So, of course, we're excited about this.
I knew then that I had a confession, so relief. Finally, this was going to come to an end, this nightmare that I'd been living for the last few years.
So she brings in her recorder, and there's nothing on there that is usable.
This tape, it's not a clear tape. There's a lot of background noise. You can't really make out the words.
We tried sending it out to the state police crime lab to see if they could enhance it in any way. They said, what you hear is what you got. There's nothing we can do with it. We've reached a turning point in the investigation. Basically go on the offensive here. Are we going to make something happen? It's circumstantial at this point, but it was one of those things where I'm going to look into it because you never know. But I didn't have a feeling at that point whether there was really something here or not. What we ended up deciding to do was this operation at Abigail's restaurant. Cindy agreed to be wired with some professional equipment and try and recreate her conversation with Carl and get him to make some of the same admissions. So that happens on November 20th. At this point, we're committed. We can't just let it go at this point, because once he confides in her, he's going to expect her to come back. And when she doesn't come back, there's going to be a problem. Or he's going to get suspicious that she's working with the cops, and now she's going to be in danger.
I looked at it as I had a job to do, whatever it took.
We had a safety plan in effect. We had 4 undercover officers come in to protect Cindy.
While Carl and Cindy and the officers were in Abigail's, I was across the street in an unmarked police car with another investigator, and we were monitoring the situation.
Cindy's obviously our number one priority. We don't know if Carl's armed. Maybe he's so mad at Cindy he wants to do something right there. I'm just thinking, I hope this guy doesn't do anything stupid.
I don't have a whole lot of time today, so
Cindy was very nervous, but she also was very determined.
I'm wondering if we can finish our story the other day. Can you just tell me how things went that day so that I know in my head? Yeah, I mean, I was scared, but I really didn't feel like I had a choice or any other options at that point. I was determined that I was going to get a confession. I mean, you're sorry about it, right?
Every minute.
Okay, Carl, and I believe that. Can you just tell me what happened that day?
When I went in there, I jacked it up, then it slid.
It slid? That's not what you told me the other day. That's not what you told me,
Yes,
Carl.
it is.
No, it isn't.
What did I say?
I asked you if you pushed the truck, and you said yes.
I didn't push the truck, I said. No, I said I had nothing to do, but I said I took advantage of the situation once it happened.
The first time I asked him, he said he had pushed the truck on Levi. So now he changed it to he didn't push the truck, but it had fallen, and somehow he saw an opportunity after it happened.
He makes the remark that he took advantage of the opportunity. No parent is going to refer to the death of their child as an opportunity. Most parents, the idea of any harm coming to their child is totally abhorrent. And that was when I felt that I was 100% sure on what kind of person he was.
It was never planned from day one for this to ever go that way.
What do you mean from day one?
From the time we did the insurance stuff. I mean, don't ever think back.
You gotta understand, I can't go back with you. And you got discrepancies in your stories. I know you're not telling me the whole truth. I know you're not.
At that point, we don't have a full-blown confession, and we have still largely a circumstantial case. So we're unable to make an arrest. But after hearing what he said in Abigail's, now we got to bring him in.
I took advantage of the situation once it happened.
But it's going to come down to an interview. We need a confession because Cindy, now she's going to be in danger.
I felt Carl would probably kill me if he, found out what was going on.
This isn't a trap.
A trap? Like what kind of trap?
Can you understand where I'm coming from?
Well, I can understand, yes, where you would be scared. But you're going to have to trust me, Carl.
She's scared of Carl. He had 1.2 million reasons to kill Cindy. 700,000, I guess, wasn't enough.
At that point, we know the interview is going to happen. It's got to happen fairly soon. So we approach Carl, and we tell him we'd like to talk to him. He says, yeah, I know what you want to talk about. You want to talk about my dead wife and my dead son. We said, as a matter of fact, we do. And we asked him if he'll ride with us back to the office. He agreed very cheerfully to come ride with us to the office.
When Carl's brought into the station, we do not have enough to arrest him. Tom Crowley and John Clear, I think we all felt had the best mannerisms, best demeanor that fit with Carl.
You confessed to your wife?
I like my wife. What is that? I'm just here. You have her wired? And be honest with me.
Yes, we do.
I thought you did.
It's all recorded.
If they brought him in for questioning and had to let him go, then I knew that Alex and I would definitely have to go into hiding somewhere.
There's no way I could kill the son. There's no way.
What we know is that in 2008, Carl's the last person to see Levi alive, and that Christina Carlson, Carl's first wife, died in a tragic, very unusual fire death on January 1st, 1991. Do we know for a fact that Carl did it? No. But it's important that we find out the details and get Carl to tell us the truth.
Okay, you guys don't know what happened that day.
Tell us about it.
The day that my son died.
When you're in the interview room, you want to walk through the whole thing with him. You're also looking for consistency. You're looking for any detail that might be out of whack with what you already know.
I went out in the garage, and because we were surprised he was still there, and found him.
What do you mean you found him?
I found him dead.
Okay.
The truck was on him.
At that point in the investigation, he had already confessed to Cindy. We felt like it would be a very difficult thing for him to do, to deny it to us.
What we're saying is, and what we know to be true, is you pushed that car over.
I did not.
Well, the only thing that remains to be found out is what the reasons were.
No,
here's the thing. You confessed to your wife.
You don't kill your son. You don't kill anybody for money.
Listen, who said anything about money? What are you talking about?
Carl mentions that you don't kill your son for money. We had not brought up money. He just provided to us what we believe to be the motivation for this crime.
I think we should talk about the insurance. I think we're at that point. We have to address that. Whose idea, and be careful here, whose idea was it for him to be insured?
His.
It was his idea to be insured?
Yes, me.
The first payment, to get the insurance into effect, who paid it?
I paid that. I told him I'd pay the first one, then the rest is up to you.
And Cindy know that you paid
No.
it? And were you the beneficiary of this policy?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the policy for? What was the amount?
It was $700, but he had...
$700,000.
Right.
When we're exploring the possibility of him killing someone for insurance money, we have to show that he's the one that took out the policy. So even though we know he did that on paper, we want him to admit that.
Did he insure himself so that you would benefit? Was his plan for you to have close to $750,000?
It was for me, it was for us he wanted, and for me to take care of his girls when they got to college.
And have you done that?
They're not in college age yet. I spent money on the funeral, and we buried him not only in New York, his mother's buried in California. So we actually buried part of the ashes out there.
Oh, she was living out in California?
Yeah, I lived out in a little town called Murphy's, California.
One of the goals that we went into this interview with Carl was, as important his investigation was to the death of Levi, his son, it was every bit as important to me and the other investigators, the death of his wife in California. It was our obligation to find out the details.
Why did you leave Murphy's? Was it just because of the weather and the hurt?
Well, my wife had passed away, and...
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What was she ill?
No, she died in a house fire.
His wife prior, Christina, had died in a fire in Cavaleras County in California. We had contacted them and we obtained copies of the report from the fire. Now, I am not a fire investigator, but I just couldn't believe the things that they never looked into. Here's an example. The report had mentioned that a kerosene had spilled and maybe a heat lamp had fallen on the kerosene and ignited and fully engulfed this house.
Well, kerosene it actually burns. It's very stubborn. It doesn't burn very easily. Right away, there's some red flags, and we might want to look into it further.
This here's the bathroom where Christina was found.
I guess the bathroom door is here, and kerosene got spilled here. That's where the presumed started.
I want a picture of this window. Why he didn't knock this out?
See this?
He should have knocked that out. There's no way she could have pulled it off.
Yeah, not from the inside.
Yeah, there's no reason he couldn't have got to that bathroom. No reason.
There's way too many things that point to Carl Carlson, not involved in the murder of just his son, but the murder of his wife in 1991.
So was it like an old window? Or was
the window was like that big and it was boarded up.
You should have sued their asses off.
Oh, and I had...
Wait, did you board it up?
What's that?
Did you board it
Yeah,
up?
we had to because it was no good. But you couldn't fit out of it. You might be able to put a baby out of it. A baby. You and I, or a 80-pound woman.
Carl put a piece of plywood over that window. But did he use 1 nail, 2 nails, 4 nails to put up? No. He used 17 nails to hold that plywood sheet on. So in that bathroom is his wife trapped. The window's plywood is shut, the door's blocked, and a fire just happens to start right in the hallway, right in front of the bathroom door.
There's no way. Why'd you board it up? Because it was all broken. Everything was shot. Oh, yeah.
You have these different tragedies that occur around Carl, but they're in different parts of the country. And it's not until you step back, you can see looking at it that it all makes sense that he has a role in this. But if you look at them individually, it did not.
So you lost your son?
And my wife.
And your wife?
You know, and the thing is like...
Well, I gotta ask, just because now that's brought up.
That's fine.
how much was the insurance on your wife?
200 on her.
200,000. Was she working at the time?
No, she never worked.
When did you move up?
Week and a half after she died.
It was time to start elevating our game and confronting him, taking away his personal space, and putting some pressure on him.
There's no reason he couldn't have got to that bathroom.
There's not many people that want to believe that a human being who came from a good family can sit there and murder their wife in such a cold way and then murder their son simply for money.
Now, at this point, it's all circumstantial evidence, but it's a lot of stuff to happen for someone. I mean, I started thinking, this person's like really unlucky, or there's something going on here. There seems to be a pattern.
I didn't expect that Carl was going to confess to a murder of 20 plus years ago in a state 3,000 miles away. But what I did think, and I was confident of, is that there's no way Carl could keep track of the lies he told about the 2008 death of Levi. It was time to start elevating our game and confronting him, taking away his personal space, and putting some pressure on him.
You know, we've been working on this for quite a while, basically the better part of a year. We know a lot of what happened, but only you, Carl, knows what's in your head.
Oh, I know. I know what's in my head and in my heart.
Don't lie to us.
Well,
We knew that you were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And we know that
What does that have to do with it?
Because I respect you for that.
You want to make that, to build that rapport, is make some type of physical, non-threatening physical contact, a hand on the knee or on the shoulder, to give the impression that you're sympathetic to them.
What did you mean when you told Cindy that one of the reasons that you took the opportunity to do it was because he was a bird? What did you mean by that?
You are not 5 years old. You cannot get caught with your hand in a cookie jar.
Yeah, but
tell the truth, and you can't do
look
that.
At the doctor.
You can't do that.
Well, then you know what? I want a lawyer or something, I guess, because I don't understand what you guys aren't listening to me.
If you want a lawyer, we're done. Case law on Miranda is pretty definitive. It says there has to be a clear declaration for an attorney. So I wanted to explore that further with Carl before we gave up the interview to see what he really wanted to do, but we knew his weakness. He wants to keep talking, even at the risk of incriminating himself. That's a pretty strong need.
If you want it, we want to make
keep
sure.
Talking. Okay.
So you do not want a lawyer right now?
Not right at this minute, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know how accurate they can do the cause of death based on body temperature,
I know.
atmospheric temperature? They can put it within a 15-minute window. I mean, it's not as precise as we would like it to be, but basically, or specifically, it was before he left. He died. And it wasn't because of anything other than a crushing chest wound.
Telling Carl that we could prove something based on scientific evidence, it's a calculated risk. If for some reason he knows that that's not necessarily true, it could embolden him and say, you know what, they're grasping now. They're telling me things that are not true.
We can prove right now that it was you that forced that Carl.
You're allowed to use a certain amount of deception, but it's got to be something that wouldn't shock the conscience, is the way the case law reads. So when Tom uses the deception about the police science, he fell for it.
He was dead when I went in there.
Okay, tell us about that.
Carl actually thought that we knew what time that Levi died.
At that point, he's admitting he lied about what happened. And he's telling a story that makes no sense at all.
Let's talk about what happened.
I walked in there to, give him his money, and holy fuck. And I just blanked.
Now he's making a mission to us that he knew that Levi was dead before he left for the funeral.
And we knew that he was going in the direction of telling the complete truth.
Why did you keep it a secret for so long?
I'm thinking that I need to give him a lot of sympathy and a lot of attention. That was a technique I was taught when I was learning how to interview hard suspects, to give the impression that you're sympathetic to them and understand why they did what they did.
There's no fucking way.
John was tremendous. John Clear built a great relationship with Carl to the point that John's rubbing Carl's back and Carl's accepting it, and he likes that John's almost feeling sorry for him.
It was an accident, and I blame myself every day, just like you said.
It enabled Carl to build, again, that false friendship with John Clear.
About 6 hours in the interview, Carl's made some major admissions. Now Jeff's going to come in and be more confrontational.
Hey.
It's a long interview, and you just keep trying different tactics.
Can you sit for a couple minutes so I can just talk to you?
There's a lot hanging on this interview because we have still largely a circumstantial case. The end goal is to get some type of admission or confession.
I always go in there with the confidence that I'm going to get the truth. And if the truth is that he did the crime, that I'm going to get the confession. I've never in my life gone to an interview and thinking that I wasn't going to get the truth.
So Levi, just total coincidence, takes out a $700,000 life insurance policy in name for his father that he doesn't get along with. It's a sole beneficiary. And you happen to pay the policy.
I want to take away his personal space and put some pressure on him. I want him to look me in the eyes when he's lying to me and when he's denying about how he murdered his son.
He comes over to your house with a $700,000 life insurance policy. He gets under this truck that your son, the one you're supposed to love and care for, this is your blood, your flesh and blood. Miraculously, the truck falls over on him while you're there, and you say...
I wasn't in there when it happened.
Well, you might say that, but we both know you were in there.
Carl's like everybody. He's a look down, look away type of guy. He's lying. He's the guy that you can see his emotions change. You can see his body language change.
So he needed help, and you're his biological father, and you don't give him help? What kind of father are you?
Piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. You don't give him help. You let him be crushed under there. You go back and go, okay, honey, let's go to your uncle's funeral.
I freaked. I panicked. I don't know. A million thoughts went through my head.
Jeff definitely took a more adversarial role with him, but that was to allow me to be more supportive. A version of good cop, bad cop.
Doesn't matter to me, Carl. I get paid by the hour. But if you want to help yourself, you ought to explain why you pushed that truck. It was a split-second decision. It had nothing to do with the insurance money. Okay. We can deal with that.
There's nothing that can justify killing your wife, your kids, your uncles, your parents, it'd be different if you killed the...
I didn't say you killed your wife.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying wife, kids, whatever.
Carl, did you?
No, I already been through that. No, hell no, and no way in hell. And if I had anything to do, I would get rid of my wife now and have my first wife.
When you get to the point where a person's finally starting to make admissions, you're thinking, I'm at a delicate point here. I got to be really careful on how I phrase stuff.
Never heard him?
You did.
He seems to like that I'm listening, that I'm actually on his side.
You're this close, man. You're the closest you're going to be.
It was an accident. I opened the truck door.
Okay.
When they did it, fucking...
Do I think he accidentally caused it to fall? No. I mean, that's the way he chose to explain it. I think that way he saved some face.
Little revelation.
Talk to me.
Once he admitted that he lied about how it happened, I mean, the only reason to lie about how it happened was to cover up what really happened.
When I went in the garage, I didn't find Levi dead. I went in the garage and he was cussing and swearing up a storm that he couldn't get the hydraulic hose out and stuff like that. So I opened up the truck door, stepped in, laid over the seat to move the linkages and all that, and it tipped.
Pushed right over on.
It just fell.
Fell on. Crushed.
Carl Carlson is one of the few true sociopaths I've ever met. Arrogant, a man who likes to boast. He's a man who thinks he's smart. I think somebody like Carl is one of the most notorious murderers that I've ever dealt with.
So then what did you do? You walked away, you didn't run for help? You didn't think 911 could help you? You can jack it back up?
I knew the truck was completely on him. The jack was fucking falling over. I just knew that in my head that all I could do was run.
But did you know he died of suffocation because his lung was collapsed? And if the truck was lifted off him, he would have been able to breathe.
I don't know what I was thinking.
So the truck fell on your son, and instead of jacking it back up, you ran.
I was scared as shit. I don't know why.
It literally sends chills up you when you listen to Carl admitting what he did. There's no remorse.
Do you think that I believe that?
I don't care what anybody believes.
You're a money-driven individual, Carl, period.
Yeah.
$700,000 is what you had gained from his death. $200,000 is what you had gained from your wife's death in California.
Will be.
Under New York state laws, if you take an action that causes someone like that to die and you don't do anything to stop it, that's depraved indifference. That's murder second degree.
Of all these alleged coincidences, they have to be fully insured, each one of them, to the max.
Because, it's not to the, I don't know what you call the max.
Well, I have no insurance on my kids.
I'm looking at this monster in the eyes, and it's impossible not to become frustrated and deep down inside angry with the type of person that Carl is. In many ways, people look at him and say he's a goof, he's an idiot. But the thing that Carl really is, he's a murderer, he's a monster.
Well, come with me, you're under arrest. I think you knew that was coming. Do you have any weapons on you, Carl? Any knives, anything like that? He didn't even disagree. Didn't seem to be really that upset. He actually shook my hand, told me I did a good job.
It's okay, I can give it to you. Thank you.
Bringing you up to speed now on a crime we first told you about back in 2008. A man in Seneca County is now facing charges he murdered his own son.
I said 67 times, I'm innocent. It took him 9.5 hours for me to put my foot in my mouth.
4 years after his son was killed, he's been indicted in his death.
Carl took the plea deal. He allocuted in county court. An allocution is basically your confession with the judge of what you did.
Levi's children helped their mother compose a victim's impact statement for sentencing, which said it better than I can say it. When Carl took Levi's life, he didn't just take away from Levi, he took away from his children.
I'm heartbroken that they have to grow up without their dad.
This afternoon, a Seneca County man was sentenced to 15 years to life for killing his son. He's also the chief suspect in the death of his first wife in California back in 1991.
If things didn't play out the way they did, I do believe that Carl would have definitely have harmed or killed somebody else again.
I would have been next on Carl's list, you know.
Today, would I ever take life insurance out on anything? Never. You couldn't pay me enough. You couldn't pay me. I'm not upset with my family for staying the heck away from me. Not a bit. I'm upset with the lawyer. I'm upset with the prosecutor. I'm upset with the system. Do you know why Lady Justice has a blindfold on? Do you know the true reason? She's embarrassed. Lady Justice is embarrassed that this stuff goes on. And you may think I'm talking out my head, but think about it. And tell me, am I wrong?
Carl took his plea. He was sentenced. He appealed. He lost his appeal. They unanimously upheld his conviction.
Carl Carlson had what most people would kill to have: a wonderful wife, a wonderful family, but it wasn't enough for Carl. Carl wanted to take the shortcut. He didn't want to work for a living. He didn't want to work hard. Life wasn't a marathon. He wanted quick, immediate gratification, and he wanted quick money.
And I'm pretty proud of the fact, you know, that I was able to help get him behind bars. I still dream about Levi, and, you know, I think he's in heaven and with his mom, and I think he's looking down on me and Alex, and I think he's proud. You know, I really feel that he's proud.